Developing today, growing criticism of Meghan Markle. First, she wasn't actually invited to Fashion Week. She invited herself, which is just utterly predictable and hilarious. We knew it, but we now have confirmation from Balenciaga. But second, because in the hours after her crazed husband, Prince Harry, described the big tech media giants, the social media powers like Instagram, as depraved for exploiting children, Meghan went and exploited her own daughter, Lili, in an Instagram post to try and prove that she's a feminist. To all the girls, this world is yours, she wrote, do everything you can to protect your rights. Use your voice, support each other. We will do the same for you. It's your right and our responsibility. Go get 'em, girl. Happy International Day of the Girl. Of course, this also proved what Brittany from the Royal News Network has been saying for some time. Meghan has a favourite child and she doesn't even try and hide it anymore. As she posted, what about International Day of the Boy Child on May the 16th? Meghan's preference for her daughter over her son is quite obvious, and I find it so sad. Big news, Outspoken is now available as a podcast too, so please do subscribe wherever you get yours, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and make sure you rate and review. I'll take 5 stars, if you may. Brittany, it is desperately sad, but it's also incredibly hypocritical. I mean, how tone deaf is this woman? Or, Brittany, and I know you might say I'm conspiracy minded here, is she making a point that she doesn't agree with what her husband is saying on stage? Because what else can explain this post coming so soon after Harry's words?
Developing today, the pile-on grows. First, confirmation Meghan Markle wasn't invited to Paris Fashion Week. She invited herself. Second, just hours after Prince Harry blasted social platforms as depraved over harm to kids, Meghan posted a glossy tribute using daughter Lilibet to push a girl power message. Hypocrisy? Mixed signals? Both? We'll break it down. And why insiders say Harry is livid.
Well, I mean, Meghan definitely wants to portray herself as a feminist, but of course, like pretty much everything Meghan does, she overdoes it to such an extent, and it's just so incredibly obvious. Lili got, I think, 4 pictures, a couple of videos, and the baby mama dance for her birthday. Archie got 1 solitary picture of him looking out at a sunset, and that was it. Meghan has a clear preference here, and it's not something that I'm necessarily reading into. Like, she just puts it plain out there on Instagram. She puts a lot more emphasis on Lili than she does on Archie, and she wants to have that better connection with her, I guess. And I just find it, again, so incredibly sad that Meghan is being so public with it. She doesn't have to be that public. She chooses to be. And I find that exceptionally sad.
Of course, and as Stephanie Sidley pointed out too, there's another irony that she posted this on Instagram only 6 days after she endorsed Balenciaga. She is unhinged, and you can see the Balenciaga very disturbing child sex picture, at least one of them there. Now, Shooter Scoop, Rob Shooter, reporting that Prince Harry is fuming. He writes, he went to court for privacy. Now she's putting their daughter online. That's according to an insider. His reporting, Brittany, Shooter Scoop has learned that Prince Harry is fuming over Meghan Markle's decision to post new photos of their 4-year-old daughter, Princess Lilibet, on Instagram. The Duchess's tribute for International Day of the Girl might have won hearts online, but it's reignited one of the couple's oldest arguments, privacy. Harry's deeply uncomfortable, one royal insider spills. He spent years fighting tabloids and paparazzi to protect his kids. Now Meghan's the one putting them back in the spotlight. The post showing barefoot Lilibet twerking in a field was meant to be empowering, but for Harry it was exposure he didn't approve. He found out almost when the rest of us did, says the source. He thinks she crossed a line. Friends insist Meghan's motives were pure. She sees it as celebrating her daughter and inspiring other girls, but Harry sees it differently. It's a clash of principles, the insider adds. She believes in visibility. He believes in protection. That tension has never really gone away. So Rob Shooter, Brittany says, actually, this is all now out in the open. And of course, I first reported it was right back in February. Harry's fury. Do you remember when Meghan was sent home from the Invictus Games? And she purposefully used that time when Harry was away and things were tense between them to put the children on Instagram for the first time. And it's ramped up ever since. The love hearts get a little bit smaller, the angles become a little bit more obvious, and Harry is almost powerless to stop her.
He is. And this is what he should have known would happen, though, because Meghan has always been desperate for the spotlight. This was there from literal day one. And she was constantly teasing him on Instagram when they were dating, trying to get people to catch on to that. So she was always going to exploit the kids on Instagram. That's part of the reason she's on it. And when it comes to the kids, she will put them on there more and more, especially as things get rather bad for her. Otherwise, the kids will be, I think, fully revealed at some point when the coffers are really starting to dwindle, because they need the kids probably in order to make more money. It's always going to be about the money for Meghan. She'll exploit pretty much anyone, even the death of her mother-in-law, to make money. That's sort of who Meghan is, in my opinion. So this should not be a surprise. If Harry is mad, well, he should have chosen a different wife. Like that's at the end of the day. Meghan's going to do what she wants to do. And we have been told several times, she wears the pants in the relationship. If Harry wanted to change that dynamic, he should have done that at the beginning of their relationship, because Meghan's the one running the ship and she's going to do what she wants.
Absolutely. And the thing is, Brittany, that was proven when it came to the high-end fashion, because for a long time, we've known that virtually every high-end fashion brand has said no to any type of official tie-up with Meghan Markle. The risks for them have always outweighed the possible publicity. So Meghan Markle got to Balenciaga. Everyone is wondering how. And there were some reports that she had invited herself, but it almost felt too extraordinary because, of course, the head, the new head of Balenciaga, Paolo Piccoli, he had dressed her. So the thinking was, well, no, this must be a way for them to try and move on from the Kardashians or move on from the child sex scandal. But the cut, which has become a real thorn in the side, actually, of late for Meghan Markle, in an interview with Piccolo over the weekend, reveals, no. She actually did invite herself. He said it. The question from the cut was, Meghan the Duchess of Sussex made a surprise appearance at her first Paris Fashion Week show wearing 2 custom looks. How did that happen? He replies, Meghan and I met some years ago and we've been texting ever since. She reached out and said she'd love to come to the show. There was no strategy or big orchestration. I didn't tell anyone she was coming because I wanted it to stay a surprise, and fashion real surprises are rare, and this one was beautiful. But as Queer Lips of Truth put it, Meghan Markle exposed again. Contrary to her spokesperson's interview to People magazine and the claim of the Sussex Squad, Meghan was not invited by the Balenciaga creative director. Meghan invited herself to the show for publicity purposes only. And Brittany, you also wrote, per the cut, Meghan Markle apparently invited herself to the Balenciaga show. I'm sure the new creative director was thrilled about the publicity it would bring, but I'm not sure it landed exactly how he wanted. Will future invitations be in the offing? That's up in the air. But it is extraordinary, Brittany, because this does, I guess, play into this point that Tom Bauer has been making of late. There is a certain grit, determination, and shamelessness connected to this woman, where she does keep asking, and it's like, she'll keep asking Taylor Swift and Beyonce for the interview. They'll keep saying no. She'll keep asking Valentino for the invitation to their show. They'll keep saying no. But eventually she got Balenciaga to say yes. She will never stop asking. I mean, it's almost like a sort of form of autism. She doesn't feel shame.
According to an interview with Balenciaga's creative director, Meghan reached out and said she'd love to attend. No grand strategy, she asked. They said yes. Critics say that fits a long pattern. When the door doesn't open, she knocks louder. But this time, the optics backfired. Aligning with a brand still shadowed by a notorious child-themed campaign reignited outrage, not admiration.
She really doesn't. And you gotta give her credit for trying constantly. But this was sort of you could say a perfect storm for Balenciaga, because they had this new creative director. It was a way sort of maybe to get the child sex exploitation ad campaign they had sort of away from people's minds. And I'm not sure it played exactly how they wanted it, because all it did was remind people of that instead. But it's completely shameless of Meghan to invite herself. And this whole idea that she has this like really strong friendship with this designer is, I think, complete fabrication. They probably text maybe a couple of times a year. Maybe she asks him for something and he says yes or no. Like, I'm sure that's the extent of their texting relationship. And she wanted something big and flashy. And so he's the new creative director at Balenciaga. It was his first show, a great way to get publicity for it beyond the normal. And so they went with it. But do I think any big designer brand is clamoring for a partnership? I just really don't think so. She is so toxic. She even proved it with the Paris trip. She had no chill factor, and she sabotaged it herself like she does everything else. If she hadn't done the video near the tunnel where Diana died, if she had actually stopped acting like Zoolander and behaved sort of like a normal person, she might have been okay. But this whole thing was an epic train wreck. Balenciaga got some publicity out of it, so I'm sure they're somewhat happy. But do I think anybody is like, yes, Meghan Markle for next Paris Fashion Week? No, absolutely not.
No, totally, because Balenciaga is a troubled brand, and it's certainly a troubled brand because of its perception. And remember, it's already a brand that has its biggest celebrity link in Kim Kardashian. Now, Brittany, it was weird seeing Meghan with Anna Wintour. And a lot of people thought that this opened the door up to Vogue magazine, even though, by the way, her fashion, Meghan's fashion, and I'm not a fashion guy, Brittany, but it's terrible. I mean, that one pointed out alongside this photo, this woman wants to have a fashion brand. And it really is worth sometimes just considering, like, really? Really? Like, this is no Victoria Beckham, okay, who had that natural sense of style. But Brittany, you say that you are sure that Meghan is now angling for a Vogue cover. And there has been a lot of speculation that is already happening after she was spotted with Anna Wintour's successor in New York over the weekend. What do you know is going on here, Brittany?
Well, I imagine Meghan, of course, is always looking for publicity in any way that she can get it. And much like Balenciaga, where she had to ask to have an invitation, I'm sure she's lobbying really hard right now to get through for Vogue. And the reason that is that Meghan is always looking for a cover. She's always looking for publicity. She's always looking to sort of revamp herself. But the problem Meghan's having anymore with all the interviews is it's always same old, same old. How many more times can we hear about the soap story? I mean, she's starting to have to embellish it to make it more interesting. And I feel like this is going to be another example of sort of the same old interview. And Vogue is not doing, I don't think, super well. Obviously, it's gone quite woke. And so a lot of people don't buy it anymore. People don't buy magazines anyways. That's sort of a harder sell. And so I don't know if she'll get the cover. Maybe she gets an article or two, but is she angling for it? I'm sure she is.
Brittany, of course, we knew we were going to get the Team Harry propaganda. It was inevitable. And we knew it was going to come from only a few sources, because we know which sources Harry's friends are speaking to and briefing to. And almost like clockwork, it came from Charlotte Griffiths in the Mail on Sunday. And it is just worth sharing to you because it does show you how Harry sometimes tries to defend the indefensible when he is doing his PR spin. So this is how Charlotte Griffiths tried to spin the whole Paris disaster in the Mail on Sunday over the weekend. The headline, Harry's anger as memory of Diana as is used as a stick to beat Meghan with. And this was the reporting from Charlotte Griffiths. A week on from that surprise appearance at Paris Fashion Week, and sources close to Meghan and Prince Harry remain agog. The British friends of the prince characterise her appearance at the event as beyond belief. The Californian end are more expressive and say things as, that was fucking wild. In some ways, and let's be clear, these are the ways that matter to Meghan. It was a triumph. Following the visit, Vogue.com has put her on their best dressed at Paris Fashion Week list, and in an even greater coup, Vogue Supremo Anna Wintour, who is not one of nature's huggers, to put it mildly, seemed to have the very warmest of feelings for the Duchess of Sussex when she met her at the Paris Fashion Show, greeting her with a kiss. Prince Harry believes that the memory of Princess Diana was being used as a stick to beat his wife with during her gaffe-laden trip to Paris last week, friends have told the Mail on Sunday. They say the Duke of Sussex was left hurt and upset after Meghan received backlash for a video which showed her stretching her feet out in the back of a limo. It is understood the Duchess was not aware of the car's location, with friends saying it was a hell of a stretch to suggest she drove past the tunnel on purpose. And Harry, who has not spoken publicly about the row, is said to have been left despondent but not surprised by the barrage of criticism his wife faced. A friend of the couple said Harry was left upset and hurt. Diana's death was used as a stick to beat his wife with. Meghan did not even come close to the tunnel. They added the whole thing is a joke, but not a very funny one for Harry. He was left feeling hurt, but the depressing thing is he wasn't even that surprised. He was more despondent than shocked. For Meghan, the furore surrounding her trip, which she had hoped would mark a flawless debut on the fashion social scene, was so toxic it went down like a sack of cold sick, the friend said. A source insisted last night that unlike Diana in 1997, Meghan was wearing a seatbelt for her journey through Paris. And rather than noting her progress on the way to the £2,500 night hotel Plaza Athene, the Duchess was in fact distracted by preparing a slick Instagram reel of breakfast trays, Eiffel Tower views, and makeup prep. So, Brittany, to me, this is truly fascinating, right? Because it's like Harry's team admit he's despondent, he's upset, things aren't good. So all of that is accurate, right? The guy is in a very bad place. But of course, the extra layer of spin is that, but it's nothing to do with Meghan. You know, she was completely clueless. She had no idea. She was just preparing her Instagram reel. You know, this is all down to the horrid and nasty press. Well, I don't buy it. And I don't buy that Harry buys it either.
Harry publicly condemned big tech's handling of children. Within hours, Meghan posted Lilibet with, "To all the girls, this world is yours." Empowering tone, awkward timing. Entertainment reporter Rob Shooter says Harry learned almost when the public did and believes a line was crossed. Commentators also point out the imbalance. Multiple curated posts for Lili. A single distant snap for Archie. The couple's messages on kids and privacy are colliding.
No, Dan, definitely not. And I have zero sympathy for Harry in this particular situation because throughout his whole relationship with Meghan Markle, Harry has made it very, very, very clear that he wants the public to see connections and similarities between his wife and his mother. So he should not be surprised when we make the connections he has asked us to make. But we made it in a negative way that he didn't like. And I have no sympathy there. This is exactly what he wanted. And yes, it goes maybe well for him in some instances and goes bad for him in other instances. And his wife is nothing like his mother. I think maybe they have their worst traits in common. And Harry should not be surprised, but also I think Harry is mad about the video in Paris. The trip did not go well. Like everything Meghan does, it tends to go really, really sideways. And she should be used to this at this point. She's under a lot of scrutiny and she doesn't act in a way where she understands the scrutiny she's under. And so she makes constant errors. And that was what this Paris trip was. It was a disaster. It didn't go well. And yeah, it was an absolute mess. And Meghan should not be surprised by the negative reaction to it.
No, indeed, she really shouldn't. But of course, the spin continues. And what you really see in these instances is who you can trust. And the fact that Charlotte Griffiths actually was able to write and publish that with a straight face, I'm sorry, you can't trust her reporting. But what we do know is that this is what Team Harry is trying to present to the world. And at this point, despite the fact that their principal is so unhappy, so devastated, so clearly furious with his wife, and they have to acknowledge that in some way, but at the same time they also try and protect her. It's messy. It's very messy. I used to see this with the Beckhams over the years. I mean, they've sorted it out now, but there was a time when David and Victoria Beckham had their own staff members briefing against one another because they obviously had their own priorities, and it can become very, very uncomfortable. There was another huge development over the weekend, though, Brittany. Harry's new meltdown over security has sent his relationship with the King Charles, back to square one. It is a truly astonishing decision. According to Taz, sums it up this way: here we go again. He will never stop trying to get back his full UK taxpayer-funded security. He's back to writing angry letters and demanding that he's given different treatment. He had Met Police sweep his damn hotel recently. He gets enough protection as it is. Just bugger off. And then Roy and Nika reporting in the Sunday Times, I would say this has come direct from the palace, Brittany. It's not going to help matters. We're back to where we were. And in fairness, Brittany, this does mean that King Charles was right. That Prince William was right, that Prince William was right to warn King Charles not to have this meeting, because he just shut up about security for all of 5 minutes. Now that the UK has a new Home Secretary in Shabana Mahmood. Shabana Mahmood, by the way, for American viewers who don't know, a hard leftist, right? So Harry's thinking, okay, we've got an extremist, a hard left extremist in as the new Home Secretary. We're going to go again. To hell with my father. It's completely nuts. And Tom Sykes, writing on this, Brittany, Prince Harry's fragile reconciliation with his father, King Charles III, has collapsed after the Duke re-upped his demand for automatic taxpayer-funded police protection when visiting the UK. So there you go. Back to where we were. Predictable.
It 100% is. Harry is obsessed with his security. And what Harry did actually with Mexit and losing his security was to speed up the inevitable. What would eventually have happened to Harry, even if he had been a working royal, is that at some point he would lose the 24/7 security and he would go to more of the arrangement that his uncles and aunt have, or pretty much his uncle and his aunt have, which is they get security on royal engagements. They are somewhat secured under the apparatus of a security arrangement on their properties, but they do not get 24/7 all-day security like the Waleses do and like King Charles and Camilla do. That was always going to happen to Harry. It's why they didn't offer security protection for Archie, is because they're constitutionally irrelevant. And as time goes on, as the Wales' kids start having kids, Harry will go from 5th in line of succession to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and below, most likely. And so Harry's reality here is one that I think that he's always been terrified of, which is irrelevancy. But Harry dealt with it in the completely wrong way, which was instead of to work hard and gain the respect, so even if things changed over time, his status grew, much like Princess Anne, Harry just basically threw a temper tantrum. He's still on the floor screaming and wailing and throwing his arms and legs up in the air, all trying to get the world to pay attention to his security needs. But the reality remains, he's not constitutionally relevant to the UK anymore. This was always going to happen. And that he's still demanding this is just absolutely crazy. It's not going to end well for him. And I think it's a time for King Charles to say, Harry, if you want a relationship, this has to change. If it doesn't, then let's think about removing the security risk from you, which means you're placed in the line of succession and your titles. That solves the whole problem right there.
After Paris, Meghan was seen with Anna Wintour and Vogue Brass, fueling talk of a cover push. Meanwhile, a friendly write-up tried to recast the Paris footage as harmless and blamed critics for using Diana as a stick to beat her. Online route mapping and the video itself undercut that spin. The attempt to reboot the brand via high fashion has produced more turbulence than lift.
Honestly, Brittany, Charles has to wake up. He has to wake up now. It's like, we warned of this. It was obvious. It was predictable. The leaks happened immediately. Then the security thing happened. Now you're right back to square one. Strip the titles. Just strip the titles. Honestly, I've been saying it for a long time. That's what needs to happen now. And there's no need for Harry to return to the United Kingdom either. He can do a private visit to Balmoral if he wants to be a decent man and allow his father to see his grandchildren. He's not a decent man, so he probably won't. And that was proven with another court humiliation for Harry over the weekend. I mean, I cannot emphasize just how bad the past 48 hours have been for Harry and Meghan, Brittany. Look at this from the Times. Prince Harry barred from saying Kate and family were victims in privacy claim. A judge has ruled that the Duke of Sussex cannot say in his High Court case that they were the victims of information gathering. And, you know, Justice Nicklin was very, very clear. Well, let me just take you through a little bit of it, Brittany. He ruled on Friday that the allegation relating to Kate had been added to Harry's claim too late. The allegation about William's party was never formally part of the claim, but the judge struck out allegations that 3 private investigators were paid for information about William. The judge said he was rejecting irrelevant allegations to stop the case descending into an uncontrolled and wide-ranging investigation akin to a public inquiry. But we know that's exactly what Harry wants. And Harry and his lawyer, David Sherborne, are trying to turn this into a show trial, Brittany, and that's why they wanted to bring Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, into it. I think it's completely despicable. And again, Harry's claim that he knew nothing about this is just laughable. Trust me, your lawyer ain't going into court with something so controversial if you haven't signed it off, and anyone who thinks otherwise is delusional.
They were really hoping, I think, this would probably get through, because I think Harry's claims himself are very, very weak. His brother and his sisters-in-law's potential claims in this case, if they had wanted to be part of it, would have been a lot stronger, because Catherine and William did have a lot of those issues with phone hacking and everything when they were much younger. And it was something that followed them because the press were more interested in the future king and who he would marry and his long-term girlfriend than they were in the spare. So I think it reveals as well how weak Harry's case is, that he has to drag his brother and sister-in-law into it in order to try to bolster his own defenses is really, really pathetic. And the judge was, I think, completely right to throw it out. It's irrelevant. This isn't a witch hunt. Harry should have very small parameters to go over. And I'm sure him and his lawyer, in my personal opinion, probably wanted this to get through. And again, the judge made the right call here.
Absolutely. Brittany, of course, another major royal story over the weekend revealed by the Mail on Sunday and The Sun. This new email that Prince Andrew sent to Jeffrey Epstein on February the 28th, 2011 is damning. Utterly damning. He writes, "I'm just as concerned for you. Don't worry about me. It would seem we are in this together and we have to rise above it. Otherwise, keep in close touch and we'll play some more soon. A. HRH Duke of York." And Brittany, what was very interesting to me about this is my good friend, Lady Colin Campbell, who is, of course, a regular here on Outspoken, who has been incredibly supportive of Prince Andrew throughout. She's had enough. She posted, after the revelation of this email, "To me personally, it is a matter of considerable perplexity and disappointment that Prince Andrew and Fergie have shown themselves to have been so disingenuous with regards to their friendship with Epstein. I appreciate that they felt trapped in an invidious position from which they needed to extricate themselves with what we can politely call finesse. But the emerging two-facedness of the couple is showing how foolish they truly were. As someone who got caught up in his duplicitous denials to the extent that I ended up having to sue the Daily Mirror for libel, thereby involving me in nearly 4 years of the most stressful litigation, I feel I am well placed to observe that all they needed to do, and should have done from the outset, was play with a straight bat. They could have and should have said what everyone with even peripheral knowledge of the matter believed, including Peter Mandelson and Tony Blair. Namely that Jeffrey Epstein was a sleazebag who availed himself on a daily basis of the services of young women whom he paid to provide him with relief, and while this was morally degenerate in the eyes of many insofar as they were concerned, he had broken no laws, and they felt it was none of their business what he did in their personal life." And Brittany, I think the fact that Andrew's lost Lady C with the release of these emails is quite a significant moment.
It is. And when it comes to Andrew and Sarah, what has been so evident, I read Andrew Lowney's book, and I think what we've known for a long time is Sarah and Andrew have always been somewhat desperate for money, and they're willing to compromise a lot in order to get it and deal with nefarious people in order to make their own money. And it has resulted in a catastrophic outcome for them. And it's a lesson I think definitely Harry and Meghan should take here, but Prince Andrew has obviously just completely broken moral compass when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein. And I'm sure he was engaged in a lot of, let's say, nefarious aspects, maybe that's not the best way to put it, but had to be somewhat aware of what Jeffrey Epstein was up to and wanted to look the other way, wanted to continue this friendship, even though every single person, I'm sure, with half a brain was going, Andrew, stop. And he just couldn't. He couldn't take the advice. And this is the end result. It should not be a surprise to anyone that this is what had happened. This was always in the cards. And Jeffrey Epstein was definitely the downfall of both Sarah and Andrew, because Sarah had her own issues with an email to Jeffrey Epstein a couple weeks ago that were revealed. And so this is a natural outcome for a series of very, very poor decisions on behalf of the Duke and Duchess of York.
Indeed, Brittany, we will get much more into this story as the days go on. And of course, for all of the best royal analysis of monarchies across the globe, make sure you sign up to RNN, the Royal News Network, which you can find on YouTube and also on X. But Brittany, we love having you as part of Outspoken, and we will speak next week. Thank you so much.
Brand divergence is widening. She's chasing fashion and podiums. He's focused on platform regulation and security. Expect more cause-driven posts featuring Lilibet if engagement needs a bump, the very thing Harry's camp dislikes. Paris worked because she asked, other houses may not bite. If Vogue passes, the scramble intensifies. And on Harry's side, renewed noise about UK protection guarantees will only deepen royal frost. Bottom line, Paris didn't crown a comeback. It exposed the rift. She's accelerating, he's braking, and the contradiction is doing the talking.